Hello, everyone. Welcome to UAT. I'm Katie, and welcome to our virtual open house. We are excited to share some insight on our innovative degree programs. A few housekeeping items here. Make sure that you have yourself set to speaker view. That way you can see who's currently speaking at the time. You can do so in the very top right-hand corner. Also, be sure to utilize our Q&A function. You can do so at the bottom here. We'll be able to answer some of those questions live and then also a little bit later on in our presentation. All right, so what are we doing today? Today, we'll be spending some time discussing our unique learning environment, our industry-driven curriculum, and talk about some next steps to becoming a student at the University of Advancing Technology. We will also introduce you to a few of our professors in a variety of our degree programs here who will also give you some insight on our degree programs. You'll also meet some of our staff who will be helping you throughout your time here at UAT. And like I said, we'll have an opportunity for a Q&A with them a little bit later on. So let's get started. UAT, what's it all about? I'll tell you. UAT faculty use tools and practices unique to each learning environment, whether you're studying with us online or on campus in Tempe, Arizona, to help students succeed. Every assignment is geared toward your technology degree program. Each class follows a standard assignment schedule, ensuring swift, successful completion of classes. This standardization, combined with team-based approaches and access to industry standard toolsets and techniques, encourages development of the collaborative environment and creates skills necessary for the advancing technology workplace. Speaking of support, you'll have a dedicated UAT student services team for your support throughout your educational experience all the way through to graduation. How awesome is that? You will also have a dedicated career services department that works closely with you to build resumes, network, and assist with building a portfolio that will set you apart in the job market. Speaking of career services support, we offer that for life through our lifelong learning. You may be asking, what is lifelong learning? I'll tell you. We offer two parts of the lifelong learning, the first of which is that you have that career services assistance for your entire life. Also, you can audit a class tuition-free for your entire life. We know that technology is constantly changing and updating, and we want you to be most up-to-date in your industry. Whether you're studying the degree online or on campus, you just can't go wrong. We have a flexible learning environment to accommodate busy schedules. It's interactive and accessible. Did I also mention we're a project-based curriculum? You're even going to create an innovative project by the time that you graduate. How cool is that? And impressive for your first job interview. So far, from what I've said, does this sound like the right program for you? I sure hope so. Be sure to stick around all the way to the very end of this virtual open house where we're going to take a look at our amazing campus. There's a lot of really cool technology pieces on campus, so you want to make sure you stick around. All right, let's get you started on your journey today. First up, let's go ahead and introduce you to one of our amazing admissions advisors, Daniel Link.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon. Really excited to have you here. So as Katie stated, I am an admission advisor. I deal with our undergraduate students and also our graduate students. So today I'm going to talk with you briefly a little bit about how the admission process functions for you as a student coming into UAT. So for our undergraduate students, what we really try to focus on is that passion for technology. Are you a good fit? Are we a good fit? We want to make sure that our different viewpoints with technology merge together. And I think that if you do have a passion for tech, then you're in the right place. We also look for undergrad students, we look at prior educational experience. Of course, graduating from high school with your high school diploma or your GED is very important for the admissions process. Now, if you've taken some other college classes at a community college or maybe some dual enrollment courses or even at a university, we do accept college credits. We accept up to 90 college credits. That's really exciting. For all your hard work you've done in the past, send it over to us. We'll put it in context with the program that you're looking at going into, and we'll do a full transfer credit evaluation for you. It's probably going to be talked about a little bit down the road, so I'll let that occur. Now, also too, we also have 6 short response questions on our application for our undergraduates. We want to know a little bit more about your background, community involvement, what you did in high school, what you did in college, what you're doing currently right now in the community revolving around tech. It's really important. We typically look for 4 to 6 sentences, paragraph to a paragraph and a half on our application for review purposes. That typically takes about 7 days for our admissions community and for our admissions team, really, to look into your application and give you feedback on that. Now, for our graduate students, of course, our graduate students coming in, we want to make sure that you have completed either your Bachelor's of Arts or Bachelor's of Science degree. And the beautiful thing about the undergrad and the grad program is that, you know what? You don't necessarily have to have a background in technology. That's the beautiful thing behind the program. But if you do, of course, that is a great advantage for you. So we do, for the grad students, we do look for leadership experience. We look for experience in technology related businesses, anything that you might be working on. Even if many students come in with their own companies, their own businesses in many cases, but that's not necessarily a requirement, but we do look for those things. We also look for professional accomplishments with our students here at UAT in the graduate program and community involvement. Now, our graduate program essay portion is a little bit different. We have about a 500-word essay portion to get to know your background a little bit more and to see what kind of involvement you have in technology. And once again, after that's submitted, about 7 days for our graduate admissions review committee to assess. Now, if you're interested in UAT, I'm going to go ahead and drop our link into the chat. It's our uat.edu link. And all you have to do is scroll down to apply to UAT, and you'll be able to go through the whole process. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Nathaniel Shrapnel. He is our student service, or he's in the student services department, and he's going to give you a little bit more insight into what to expect with UAT.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate you passing it over here. So as Daniel said, I work in the student services department here. More specifically, I'm kind of like that primary liaison. My official title is new student advisor. So I work with all students who are coming in. So after students finish the enrollment process, they sign their enrollment agreement, make the seat deposit, they're then in my realm. As your new student advisor, I work with all those students, and kind of like I have two primary responsibilities here. Number one is to help you in submitting all needed documentation in order to make sure you're all set and ready to go for when classes start. And then I also assist with the first semester scheduling for all students. So what do I mean by documents? In terms of documents, we're talking about your emergency contact form. So that's a very simple one that can be sent over email to you. Also your copies of your official high school transcript and or GED. This is just to prove that you've have completed your high school requirements or GED requirements and are able to fully enroll here at UAT. After that is your official college transcripts. Now, as Daniel has mentioned before, you can transfer in your credits here to your student curriculum here at UAT. And so I often get a lot of questions about, okay, how does that work? The quickest way you can see what credits will transfer is to send over your unofficial copy. As soon as we get that, we can go ahead and do a transfer credit evaluation and show you which past courses you may have taken already that would qualify or count for the UAT curriculum here. Now, anything that qualifies as transfer credits can involve previous college courses, AP classes in high school, maybe you've taken military classes as well. If you're unsure, worst case scenario, just send it in and we'll check that out for you. So for residents as well, after we collect these documents, I work with residents in terms of getting them connected to housing and then also just kind of starting them off with first steps and setting up their meal plan and just a couple other items related to that. Now, a part of this process too, as you'll hear later on with Mike here, our financial aid advisor, I'll be sending reminders just to make sure you're making progress on completing that FAFSA and working towards completing that financial aid plan with your financial aid advisor. Now, the other half of my role is scheduling. So as classes become as they become available, typically around 9 weeks prior to the start of your start date here, we'll be working together in terms of getting you started with an introductory schedule. We'll try to prioritize the courses within your degree program, but of course, if we have some wiggle room, we'll look into some other prereqs, other core curriculum courses here at UAT, or if you have some other interest areas, we can definitely explore those too. So in summary, that's the new student advisor role. I'm really excited for you all to be a part of here. I'm excited to meet you, one day, get you through this process. But I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball over to Mike Reed, our financial aid advisor, who's going to talk more about the financial aid side of UAT.
Well, hello. My name is Mike Reed. I'm a financial aid administrator here at University of Advancing Technology. My main purpose here is to make sure that our new students have a solid plan in place to finance their education. What this means for everybody is very different. Everyone's financial aid journey is going to be different. There's a lot of different options to pursue. Some of these are federal student loans, federal grant funding, Parent Plus loans, alternative private loans, military funding. But really, as Nathaniel mentioned, most students' first step is going to be completing that FAFSA application. So make sure that you complete that right away so we can get moving on those next steps. I'm always here to help our students navigate these options. Make sure that all the proper documents are on file and answer any questions that come up along the way. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We want to make sure that you're here, that you're set up for success. So please let me know how I can help. That's what I'm here for. And with that, I'll pass it on.
All right, so once you collect all of your documents and once you get all of your financial clearance underway, then is my turn. My name is Ashley, and I am the Senior Student Services Coordinator here with the University of Advancing Technology. What does that mean? Student services kind of encompasses a lot of different areas. I like to say I wear multiple hats. So not only am I your next step after working very closely with Nathaniel on the new student advisement piece, then you will be assigned to a student services coordinator who will be your best point of contact for anything academic related, but in all honesty, kind of one-stop shop. Because if you're having trouble reaching out to anyone, we want to help and bridge that gap. So I work very closely with a colleague of mine. We work with both our resident student population, as well as our online and our graduate student population, offering support when it comes to so many different areas. You're never floating alone in cyberspace as a UAT student. You always have resources available, such as online tutoring, program support specialists, meetings individually with your faculty, and we can help you to facilitate those individual meetings. So it can be intimidating to reach out to an industry professional, and we understand that. Come to myself, come to Antonio, and let us know your concerns. We'll help you bridge that gap, and we'll help you make those connections. Additionally, we will help you with degree advisement. So oftentimes you'll get started in a program that sounds very exciting, very engaging, and they are. But sometimes you'll run into a friend who's taking an amazing artificial intelligence class, and that's not in your program of study. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the other classes that we offer and find out where we can fit those in for you. It's so important to us that you're in the driver's seat for your education, and your say and the classes that you're taking is a crucial part of your success. So you have a lot of flexibility. UAT offers unlimited auditing of classes once you graduate. So if there's areas that you're not able to take once you actually can finish your program, you can come back to do that. Which brings me to the next piece that Student Services works with, which is that career services component that Katie went over earlier. As a UAT graduate, you are afforded with lifetime career services support, which is a wonderful resource for you to have that resume review, build those industry connections, and help with networking. We can also help you as an active student, whether it is with that degree advisement from a student services perspective, or if you need help finding a part-time job, a federal work study position here on campus, or anything locally, and in these days, remotely. We can help with the resume. We can help you prepare for those interviews. And we want to celebrate all of your successes and help you recognize that you're not in this by yourself. There's a huge support system of family here at UAT who wants to see you succeed, both in your classes and when you get into the industry and hit the ground running. UAT also offers a lot of counseling support options because we understand that it's not easy in today's world, or ever really, to go through the day-to-day, but especially tackle being a student, working, maybe being a part of a family, being a provider. So it's important to balance out these things, and resources help with that. We offer student assistance programs in cognitive behavioral therapy, money management, financial support, and that's all available through the UAT counseling services. So like I mentioned, there's never somewhere, you're never going to not know where to turn as a UAT student, and we will definitely help point you in the right direction. With that said, I think we're moving on next to some of our amazing esteemed faculty.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley. Yes, let's go ahead and introduce some of our professors here. We'll start off with Professor Porteo.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me here, and huge thanks to the admission teams for inviting me today. My name is Professor Porteo. I help champion the game art and animation program. I mostly live in the intro space. So if you guys do become, the noobs of UAT, I'll be interfacing a lot with you guys. Some of my classes, or my fan favorite classes, like to say, are going to be in the pre-production and production route of things. Pre-production is some of the classes such as concept arts, where we kind of understand, the process of digital painting with characters, creatures, and environments. I also teach some storyboarding classes as well, where you're able to use, visuals or illustrations as a way to kind of communicate an idea, an event, or a story into this really cool, compelling animatic. Some of the production courses I teach here are going to be in the 3D world. So I'm a huge fan of 3ds Max and Maya. And we kind of go through all those pipelines where we understand how to develop organic surfaces, such as a 3D character, all the way into also creating a 3D environment, and understanding the beauty of modular design. I think I'm going on 9 years here, and I can talk forever about the amount of classes that I've developed and taught here, but I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I'll pass it over to our next professor, Professor Valenzuela.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Professor Valenzuela, and I primarily teach in marketing, in design, in business, and I also run the Student Innovation Project for our on-ground students. So you'll hear a lot about SIP and what that means. And for those students that are looking to really challenge themselves, it is a long-term project where you create a tech-based product or service to showcase your innovative skills. And you work either independently or in a team, so that way you can actually create a proof of concept and a minimal viable prototype that you can showcase at the end of the journey here at UAT with our SIP showcase. So it's a very exciting, challenging, and rewarding journey that really stretches you and pushes you to achieve your best self. The marketing classes that I teach encompass both traditional and digital marketing strategies and tools and methodologies and techniques, all of the things that you need to know about how to promote and advocate for yourself as a brand. Digital marketing, advertising, art, business technology are the areas and departments that I primarily live in. When it comes to design, primarily in the Adobe Creative Suite with Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and web interfaces, the wireframes of a mobile application as examples. So it's a lot of these ways in which you can prototype ideas that you can potentially take to the marketplace. And for business, for those of you that are hoping maybe one day to become an entrepreneur, work with a startup, launch your own side hustle or consulting service, we walk you through the process of actually building your own business with a business plan, a marketing plan, and ways in which you can actually build a business model that is profitable. So I'm looking forward to having you in my classes. Remember, it's not going to be easy, but anything hard is usually worthwhile. So congrats on taking the first step of taking control of your life, and I look forward to meeting you individually.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and pass it over to Professor Clark.
Hey everyone, my name is Derek Clark. I am the program chair of game studies. So that means I'm in charge of game art and animation, game design, game programming, virtual reality, and digital video. So instead of trying to cover every single one of those degrees, I'm going to go a little bit more generic and I'm just going to talk about what it takes to get into the game industry. So I'm going to give you 5 things. Thing number 1, you need to develop some kind of a skill, whether that is art with George or programming with Hugh or design with Matt. You have to be able to provide something that the industry wants. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys find those skills, decide what it is you want to do. So we can help you with that. The next thing you need to do is you need to be able to communicate. Games are big projects, oftentimes with hundreds of people. And if you can't communicate to other people, or if you can't get that idea that you have for a game concept or a game design out to other people, then you will suffer, and it will be very, very difficult to make it in our world. So communication is key. That means if you are in high school or taking other college classes, English is just as important, right? Verbal communication, written communication, all that kind of stuff matters. A close cousin to that is collaboration. We do work in big teams. You need to be able to work with other people. Not only do you be able to work with them, you need to be able to understand where they're coming from. What are their perceptions? Artists, designers, programmers, business people, advertisers, production people, they all think slightly different. They all kind of have their own terminologies and different things like that. And in order to be able to collaborate, you need to be able to perception, understand their point of view, and work together. We can help you with both of those skills as well, communication and collaboration. So we got 2 more. While I can help you with these last 2, they're kind of what you need to bring to the table. It's already been mentioned, but the first one is passion. And when we say passion, it's really easy to get lost in what that means. I love video games. Okay, well, that's a passion for playing video games, but that's a little bit different than a passion for making video games. So what you really need to do is you need to reflect inward and find out what is it you're truly passionate about. Because if you're passionate about just playing a bunch of games, I still play games. A lot of the game faculty still play games, but that's not the core driving thing. The first thing that we're passionate about is the discipline that we're in. I like to design things. It doesn't matter if it's a game or going upstairs and rearranging the furniture in my living room. I get joy out of that process, the process of going through and figuring out and solving the puzzle and saying, how is this going to work? And why would I put this here? If you love to code, if you love to do art, you should find that passion in your discipline. You should find that passion in, if I was just going to sit down and do something for fun, what would I do? Now, gaming is also a part of that. So you want to have a passion for gaming as it links to that. But you should be just as happy programming, designing, or doing art for the Rugrats game or the next Age of Empires game or whatever Blizzard's going to put out next or whatever it happens to be. Find that passion there. The last thing that's a close cousin to that one is work ethic. What we do is a lot of work. It's fun. I wouldn't pick any other industry to be in, but the hours can be long. The problems can be hard. It can take a lot out of you. And so you need to be able to put that in. You need to come in and always be looking at how are you going to improve yourself? How am I going to take this activity that one of my instructors asked me to do and take it to the next level, make it better than everybody else's? Because the game industry is a performance driven industry and that work ethic comes through. You can see that person who takes it serious and wants to always make their work better than everybody else's. And that's who gets hired. So that is my 5 things you need for gaming or probably any industry, to be honest, in order to be successful and find a fulfilling career. So I'm going to introduce a late add to the schedule, so I don't have to cover programming. Professor Henry has decided to come in and talk about game programming, I'm assuming. So take it away, Hugh.
All right, I can stop by and talk here real quick. So Derek covered a lot of the great elements of what we're looking at in terms of the game program, in terms of game programming as well. I'm a firm believer that the only way to learn how to make games, the only way to get good at making games is to make games. And that's what we do here. So we've already talked about it being a very project-driven curriculum, everything being very project-driven. If you come into the game programming program, you will make a lot of games. You will do a lot of coding. There's a lot of work in there to be done. And along the way, we can direct and focus that information. So people often ask, like, why should I take a course on game programming and not just, do tutorials and videos that I see on the internet? And the main thing is that we can really help you focus the right direction, see what you're missing, see where those holes happen to be in your knowledge, and really kind of expand on those. So in the game programming classes, you will build a lot of games. Those games are specifically chosen to teach you the skills that you need to succeed in the industry. And then if we notice that there's an area that you're needing a little additional help with, we can help you out, right? So that personal touch, that ability to make it exactly what you need to become the best game programmer you can, is one of the great things here. So that's where we go. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it off next. So I believe it's going to Jill.
Yes, it is. Hi, I'm Dr. Jill Coddington, and I want to welcome you, and I'm super glad you're here. I am the program champion for computer science, artificial intelligence, robotics, and data science. And I got to tell you that every one of these is wrapped up in game programming and are individual majors on their own. I teach all of the programming classes, both undergrad and graduate, which you may want to consider after you're done with your undergrad. But we have lots of languages that we teach. We teach C#, C++, Java, Python, React Native, SQL, just to name a few. And having that diverse skill set will really help you become a better programmer and more versatile. So I want to thank you for coming. Be well, and we really hope to see you here soon.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so a short preview and an intro into a few of our degree programs here at UAT. I do have one more special guest before we get into our Q&A session here. I'm actually going to introduce you to one of our student ambassadors who is here. His name is Chad Ortel. If you want to take over to share a little bit about your experience here at UAT as a student.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chad Ortel. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I am a senior here at the university, and I'm also a student ambassador. I am studying advancing computer science, network security, and artificial intelligence, and I really do enjoy it here. So a lot of the things that we will go into in our classes start from like the building blocks of everything that you need to progress into the more advanced stuff, which is great for people who are just beginning off and don't know maybe every little thing that they're going into. It's a great place to start. So me personally, I was a online student before I transferred into the on-ground program, and the online program was awesome. It was a great fit for my life at the time because I wasn't able to move to being on campus, but coming on campus has been awesome. I lived in the dorms for a little bit, so getting to participate in the clubs, all just like being right here and there, and then also being able to work here at the campus was really awesome because there isn't really much of a commute. So I really did enjoy that. And there's a lot of different places to work, like right around the campus. You got In-N-Out that's now right next to us, and Starbucks. If you're looking for some jobs, you got Fry's across the street, and a couple gas stations up and down the street that we're on, which is Baseline. So that's really neat. Some of the events that go on campus that are really fun to participate in would be like our Nerf Club. That's a club that we have where the entire campus actually turns into an all-out battle royale of students running around with Nerf guns. It's a great time. And then we have more like degree-specific clubs, like the one I'm trying to start myself, which is one that focuses on bug bounties and is more for like people trying to learn about how to get into bug bounties and what they're all about. So that's going to be something really cool to look forward to. And then UAT also allows you to go and pursue a lot of hobbies that you might have that might not be within your degree just because of all the technology that's here on campus. Like something I've been able to pick up myself and something I've been wanting to get into for a really long time was photography. And having access to our DV room, I was able to get into that, use programs to actually work with some of the photos I've taken. And that's really cool to be able to have access to that kind of technology. and as a student ambassador here on campus, I do have more of like a back end and some sort of web development, more facing, and as well as giving tours, of course, role as for my job, which is really cool because it's going to give me stuff to put on my resume right after graduation, which is going to be really, really neat. Some of my favorite classes this semester that I have that I mentioned was an AI, ACS, network security. So some of my favorite classes I'm going to be taking this semester is going to be my machine learning class. I'm really excited about that and all the different things you can create using machine learning and deep learning, hopefully some point in the future. And then data structures and algorithms, which is going to be a class that teaches you about the different algorithms that have been used and like why they were used. So that's something I'm really, really looking forward to. And then as far as student innovation projects go, I'm not entirely sure on what I want to do for mine, but that's okay because of all the skills I have, it makes it easier for me to collaborate with other students. And like was mentioned before, it's very essential to work in groups here and in bigger teams or smaller teams with students. So with all the skills I have, I'm looking forward to just being able to collaborate with somebody or at some point come up with my own ideas. So, yeah, thank you so much for your guys' time, and hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Chad. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some of these Q&A questions answered. So, and let's talk tech a little bit, right? That's why we're here. So let's learn a little bit more about some of our degree programs. We got a little bit of a touch on each of them. Let's first focus it on to our advertising art degrees. Professor Valenzuela, can you talk a little bit about, how our UAT's advertising art degrees differ from most other advertising art degrees? What's unique about UAT's program?
Well, that's a great question. One of the things that we really believe in is teaching the fundamentals, principles and elements of design. So that way you can have a really great foundation on which to build upon. And once you are trained with those principles and elements of design, we can really, push the envelope on what it is that we can create. We utilize the Adobe Creative Suite so that way you can put together, really anything that you think will help to promote a specific product or service. So we use a lot of different marketing platforms that are open-ended as well as proprietary ones. We combine software that also encompasses other programs. So let's say that you're an advertising art major, but you want to launch this wonderful advertising campaign. You can collaborate with digital video and digital photography. So that way you can actually create the assets that you need to put together a really good visual. So that's a really nice thing that Chad alluded to, is that you have access to technology outside of your major. So that way you can create the assets that you actually need. When it comes to, building a web presence or a social media presence, that's a great tool to learn, because as an advertising art major, it doesn't matter if you're the most talented person on the planet if nobody knows and sees your work. You need to be able to advocate for yourself and promote yourself in the right way. So we use a lot of different web building tools, so that way you can select the ones that best fit your personality, your character, your passions, your mission. So that way you're not doing anything that's uncomfortable. There's so many options, and that's the beauty about this particular industry, is that you can literally select which ones you think give you more than what you put in. And that's something that really sets us apart, because you start with the foundations, you explore all these different ways that you can create, and then you select the promotional platforms that you think best advocate for yourself. So that's just one of the things that we are able to do here at UAT.
Excellent, thank you. And Daniel Link, our admissions advisor here, can you talk a little bit? We do have a question here about what the GPA and SAT scores, what's required for UAT?
Certainly. So, we look for a minimum of a 2.0 GPA to come in, and for the acceptance and review process. Now, with regards to the ACT and the SAT, we do not require those tests for admission to the university. However, if you do have those completed, please do submit those. We will have those on file for you. And if you are in the process of studying and preparing for those, please do complete those, because those are really important aspects for different scholarships or grants that you may be applying for in the future. But for the purposes of application to the university, we do not require the SAT or the ACT.
Perfect, thank you. And then Professor Henry, we do have a question in here for our game programming degree. Roughly what kind of computer hardware would a student need in order to complete the game programming degree online? They wouldn't be studying with us on campus. What are some recommendations?
So we use either the Unreal Engine and the Unity game engines pretty often. And those game engines require a slightly more powerful system than the games that you play using those engines. So you do need a pretty powerful system in order to really get the most out of those engines and get everything going. So it is the kind of thing where you would need the equivalent of a nice gaming rig, right? So if you go out and you talk to gamers and you say, okay, what would I need to kind of play the current games that are coming out right now, right? What would I need to play Cyberpunk without all of the bugs from not having the system being fast enough, right? So it is a pretty strong system. I think that we can get that information to you, the exact details of what it needs to be to run. But if you look up the Unreal Engine, just go to Epic Games, their website, they'll provide information on what's necessary to run that engine, and that's one of the ones that's really resource intensive in terms of what we're doing. So it is a level of technology that's pretty high, but it gets you ready for the industry where we're using cutting edge technology.
Perfect, thank you. Another one here, I'll go over to Professor Clark. If we were working on AR, VR, would you be able to use 3D printers or modeling to make a model of your device for a project?
Cool. I suppose you could. It's not necessarily needed. So you have to think about, if you're doing AR and VR, we like to think about it is how much virtual and how much reality are you putting into it? It's a spectrum, right? On one side, you have full-on helmet, everything's virtual, everything's created electronically, there's nothing physical created. And then on the other end of that spectrum, you have your real life. Like everything's real and there's no digital component. And so where do you fall on that spectrum? So in that case, if I was doing an AR that's right dab in the middle, right, I might have a real desk, but virtual objects on the desk. Or I might decide that I do want these three items to be real, that you can reach out and touch them and move them around, and the digital world reacts to that. So absolutely, they could be part of an AR, VR world. They don't have to be. The two technologies aren't necessarily required for each other, but they do give you those opportunities. In my head, Jill might actually know, I think we've got 8 or 9 3D printers on campus now. There's a bunch. Everywhere you look, there's a 3D printer. So there are
13.
13. There you go. I knew there was a lot of them. That being said, we also do things within the game industry or in the game design degrees. We make a lot of board games and stuff like that. So we 3D print the pieces for those things as well. So yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can get your tech to overlap is a good day.
Cool. Awesome. And then Professor Valenzuela, we do have a question in here about the end of the year project, which I believe they're referencing the Student Innovation Projects or SIP projects. Do online students also get to participate in that?
Absolutely. We have a wonderful professor, Dr. Kathleen Dunley, who oversees our online SIP program. It is essentially the same. However, they're not physically, on campus. And so we work, closely together so that way the student can have the same experience. But students that are online can still work remotely in collaboration with other students. The beautiful thing about today's world is that we have a lot of technology that allows us to communicate in real time and collaborate with a multitude of platforms and project management systems so that way we can keep track of the progress of that prototype. But SIP is really a way that you can creatively express your best ideas and utilize the expertise of our faculty members who we deem as subject matter experts, so that way they can guide you along the way. So there's a lot of points of contact from initial concept to completion, so that way you can get the right guidance as to what is needed and you still get the same accessibility to the professors. So via Zoom, via Teams, via Discord, via whatever medium that is best, so that way the student can get that guidance along the way.
Perfect, thank you. Next up, let's go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Coddington. Can you talk a little bit about the different types of robots here at UAT?
Absolutely. We have all kinds of robots, but the question seemed to be about humanoid robots. And I have two examples that I'd like to share with you. First of all, we have Lumo. And Lumo wanders around the campus and talks to people. He can tell jokes. He can also do facial recognition. He can navigate. And this is an ongoing project, just increasing his skills that his or her skills that we can and on campus so that he interfaces with our students. Another really cool project that we did was a robotic prosthetic where you could move your hand or you could by programming, we created an artificial prosthetic hand so that you could grab something, pick it up, move it, and that kind of thing. So we've got a lot of neat projects along all different lines on robotics.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's see. And actually, let's stick with you, Dr. Coddington, here, because we have a programming question here. So what if somebody just wanted to learn some C++ programming? Is that something that they're going to learn here at UAT? What are some different programming languages they'll learn?
Okay, well, yes, you will definitely learn C++, but we teach C++ and we have multiple classes in it, and then we have multiple classes that apply to it. We also, along the same lines, have C#, we have Java, we have Python, which is our primary AI language, and we have React Native, which is our mobile development environment that we're using, and SQL for database development. So we've got a lot of different programming languages, and we have multiple levels and then application classes for each of them.
Perfect, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and pass it over to Ashley in Student Services. Can you talk a little bit about some of the companies that our graduates, go on to work for and how you help them with that process?
Definitely. So as I mentioned before, UAT does offer lifetime career services support, which unfortunately doesn't mean that we offer placement, but we love to celebrate the success of our graduates. And so we do love to help them get their foot in the door by facilitating certain levels of emails, networking, provide them with LinkedIn connections. So we have graduates go on to a variety of locations, specifically here in Arizona, but of course, many of these opportunities are remote in today's society as well. So places like Carvana, Dignity Health, Plantronics, Intel, we've had many students go on to work at companies like Norton LifeLock, Riot Games, and a variety of other opportunities are always available for our graduates. So it just kind of depends on when a person is to graduate and what the industry looks like, as well as what some of their career goals are. So the more communication we have with our graduates to understand exactly where they're looking to go, the better we are to create those networks and help find them the role that will benefit them most in the industry.
Perfect, thank you. And I know Professor Coddington actually just put in there that she also had somebody who started with SpaceX. So that's a pretty exciting company to work for as well. So let's go ahead. I know there's Professor Henry, I know you wanted to answer this question live. What would be the main difference between game design and game programming?
Excellent. So being the programming professor, I'm going to come at this answer from the programming angle, right? Instead of from the design angle. But when we do our game programming, when we're building games and we're actually making the game itself, we tend to do our coding in a way that we call data-driven, which means instead of just building, one specific exact game, we build kind of a system by which you can pass additional information in that changes how that game works. So for example, if you're thinking of a game like, we'll go way back, Super Mario Brothers, right? We wouldn't decide the characters or what the characters look like, or even how high they jump. We would build a system by which designers would be able to input those values, and then it would change how that works. So if you were making something like Super Mario Brothers, a game artist would draw all of the sprites, but the designer might come up with the characters, the stories, what it means, why they're doing it. When it comes time to jump, the programmer has to decide, how does physics work? What is the math required for that jump to occur inside of the game world? How do we move those pixels around in order to achieve that goal? But how high do you jump? That goes back to a design side, what we call systems design. And a systems designer will determine how high do they jump, how many times you have to hit something before it breaks, how far apart are certain objects. They'll put the levels together as a level designer. So that's the design side. Whereas the programmers are just kind of building them those tools to make those ideas into a reality. So if you think about the difference between the two, if you want to come at from that design angle, the designers kind of come up with the ideas, the approach, the figures as to how they work. Programmers then give them tools that allow those to kind of exist. And then we go back to the designers who have to fill in all of that data. They have to actually put them into the thing that the game programmers built. And then the artists just make it look pretty, right? They just make it look good. That's pretty much the difference between those elements.
Perfect, thank you. All right, and Ashley, can you talk a little bit about, what if a student starts a degree program online, but then they decide, our campus is amazing, our professors are amazing, I want to be there live in person. What does that switch look like?
That's a great question and a really, really easy process. It takes less than an hour to facilitate a change like that, assuming we're at the right time within a student's degree progression. So certainly don't want to change while we're in the middle of an active class or potentially in the middle of an active semester. That can technically have some financial ramifications just based on the way in which funding comes in and things like that. So if a student is at the right period within their enrollment, the end of a semester, starting a new one, very easy to go from an online student to one of our resident students and attend here in person. Now, keeping in mind too, online students have all of the same access that our resident students do. So should they be local or even choose to live here in Founders Hall in our dorms, an online student can still come to the main campus, use all of the resources, meet with their faculty in person, come down here and hang out with us in the portal. So there is a lot of opportunity, even as an online student, to take advantage of the resident resources.
Excellent, thank you. Professor Porteo, what is the best major for creating stories or characters, or if they just have that creative mindset for video games, what should they pursue?
Game art and animation degree for sure. I guess it can be a mixture of game art and game design. Professor Henry and I believe Professor Clark have also taught narrative for game design, which is an awesome class. So if you guys are very passionate about the beauty of storytelling and really kind of immersing the user into a game or into just some story in general, that would be a great class to take. And I'm sure they can talk a little bit more about it than I can. If you desire to really kind of push on the aesthetic of a story, I highly recommend definitely taking my storyboarding class. It's a class that I usually run about maybe once, a year. And it tends to be, one of those classes where, students become, play multiple roles here, right? They become a hybrid with not only understanding how to tell a story, but also how to navigate an audience and really become a director, if you will, when you're creating each establishing shot or each dynamic shot to kind of invite, the audience, into the event or story that they're saying. I kind of like to explain it as a visual comic book. So if you guys are huge comic book fans out there, kind of think of it that way, how a comic book, helps, navigate you through each individual shot. In the storyboarding class, you pretty much be doing that and then incorporating it into a video timeline. We'll be using After Effects here, where you're able to apply transitions, animations, and really cool camera effects to obviously push on cinematography and obviously storytelling.
Excellent, thank you. And Daniel, can you elaborate a little bit more about how our online degree programs work? How does that work? What does that look like?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So online is really great for those students that are really busy, have a lot of other obligations that take place during the week. Online is wonderful because there is no live element. So it allows for you to log in throughout the day, really at the time that's more convenient for you. Also, it's structured in a way in which you're only taking one class at a time. So it's one class every 5 weeks. So it takes that full-time load that you would do traditionally on campus and it really gives you, you know, you don't have to worry about that second or third class. You can just focus on that one and really put all your energy into that. So that's one of the really great conveniences of doing online. If you can't make it to, on campus, being an on-campus student.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. I know we have some AR, VR questions in here. We'll go ahead and wrap them together towards Professor Clark. So first off, let's start with, would it be possible to make an AR game where the user has to be interactive and it takes physical ability at times to be able to dodge and attack? How does that work?
Yes. Oh, you want more than that? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on what you mean by AR game. Again, remember everything's on a spectrum. Are you using a helmet? Are you using your phone? Different things like that, because different devices will have different capabilities. But if you look into things like the HoloLens or the Magic Leap, they have 3D motion cameras on the front. They can actually map out the 3D environment in the world, and you can do pretty much anything you want there. It's a VR example, but think of something like Beat Saber, right? You're jumping, dodging, swinging. We can do all that in AR as well. So there's really no limitation on that. And as a matter of fact, the whole point of augmented reality is on that spectrum to combine the real world and the fake world together so that you are doing things. So if we didn't have that functionality, it would be difficult. So the key to that is, does your device support a 3D scanning camera so that it can figure out what's in the 3D world, and this is closer and this is farther away. But if you are in a 3D AR world and there is an object sitting in that world, you can walk around it as if it was actually there. It does interact with the 3D space.
Okay, cool. So
The
let's
other
get
one
to
too.
this next question. It may relate to what you're kind of just talking about, right? So if making AR or VR, making VR available, or attempting to make full dive VR a reality, making the VR world almost completely realistic or almost impossible to differ from reality, which of course would take time, they understand. But would that be able to be worked on possibly, or would that, not entirely possible, seeing you need to be able to make the technology to feel, hear, touch, and smell in the VR? Let's talk about this.
I am impressed that you read that whole question. That was awesome. Okay, so let's talk about things on a different scale. It is relatively obvious that I have a liking of Star Wars. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. And so, as such, I am huge into The Mandalorian. If I'm not going to do any spoilers, but if you watch the technology of what they called the volume is a virtual sound stage that they are using to shoot the TV show, the Disney Plus show called The Mandalorian. In that volume, what they do is they have a sound stage, they have props, they have everything you can interact with. Everywhere that would be a green screen is an LCD screen that's actually displaying Unreal Engine artifacts. And what you see on screen when you watch The Mandalorian is the result of an augmented reality environment that you cannot tell where real starts and stops and fake starts and stops. That transition point between the screen and what's actually on the ground, even when you are physically there, is difficult to find. So the first part of the answer to this question is yes, absolutely. If you have the funds, the resources, and the backing, you can do pretty much anything you want. The sub question here is that the right answer for everything that you do? And that's where, as a technologist, one of the hardest things that we try to do is figure out what is the right solution for the problem at hand. The problem at hand might not need that, right? So I'm not going to charge a client or somebody $18 million to solve their problem when the $500,000 solution would solve that. So right now, there is no limitation. I've been in smell-o-vision style VR things back in the 1990s. I've been in full touch stuff. If you search for things like The Void, or there's go-kart tracks, or there's water slides that have VR helmets, you can find pretty much anything out there. Now, 90% of the time, we concentrate on the visual and the audio and maybe a little haptic. So when you're talking about temperature, touch feedback, and things like that, I don't know about you, but most of the environments that I participate in, I have zero desire to smell or taste. because they are disgusting. And that is not something that we push very hard, but it is possible. So really what this comes down to is it's a scale of your resources. What do you want to make? What is the correct answer for the problem you're trying to solve? And then finding the technology that intersects to solve that problem. And we can do just about anything at this point.
All right, thank you. Dr. Coddington, can you talk a little bit about, we have a student here, how hard is it to learn artificial intelligence? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can. And this comes back to, yeah, you're going to work hard, but you're going to love it. But I think the most important answer to this question is while you're working hard, you're going to have SMEs, subject matter experts in AI that will help guide you, help work you through that. If you come through the program and hit the AI classes, which are middle to upper level classes, you're going to have the background to be able to accomplish them. And it's a matter of putting in the effort to do so, not how hard am I going to work. It's if you put in the effort, you have the resources at UAT to be able to accomplish that. Swift, did you want me to answer that one too?
Yes, please. That would be perfect.
Okay, Swift, let me talk a little bit about mobile development in general. First of all, one of the classes that we teach all the time is React Native. React Native is an environment where you can create mobile apps for both iOS and Android, writing it once, deploying it twice. Unity also allows you to deploy to an iOS device. Online, we do not teach just an iOS native class. And the reason being, we can't ask everyone to go out and buy a Mac computer, which is required in order to actually publish that app. So we teach mobile development, and you can publish to iOS, but we don't usually use Swift. We have taught it on campus, and we could again, but not right now with not having access to the Mac computers on campus.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, Professor Clark, can you talk a little bit about some of the projects that our cybersecurity students work on?
I will do my best. So obviously I am not the cybersecurity program chair, but I have sat in on a lot of their meetings. So I do have a little bit of knowledge there. So in general, what you're going to see as far as cybersecurity projects go is they tackle real world problems that are out there. So you've got malware, you've got red versus blue, you've got gray, you've got black hack, you've got all that kind of stuff. On campus, we do have a cybersecurity warfare range that is separated from the rest of the network where very, very bad things exist that I don't even want to think about, but they are in there. A lot of virtual machines and different things like that. You're going to find student projects that fall into cybersecurity tend to fall into a couple of categories. One is government level type of projects where we are trying to protect or harden or figure out how do we keep people out of things that we find very important. So a lot of privacy concerns, a lot of hacking and things like that. The second one, though, that a lot of our students gravitate towards is how do I protect real people? So the government, the whole government side has got tons and tons of stuff going on over there. But really, what about grandma who plugs in her router, doesn't know how to set it all up, and is now vulnerable? And now she gets a phishing scam. And now she gets this message that says, hey, you didn't pay your X bill, send me this money. And now grandma gets taken advantage of. So there's a whole suite of projects, almost altruistic, where we're just trying to help people. And so it comes in all flavors. We deal a lot with the three-letter agencies of the government, but also real world people. So a lot of cyber projects tend to fall into those categories.
Perfect, thank you. And Nathaniel, can you talk about some of the general study classes that we offer here at UAT? Obviously, we can't cover them all because there's a great variety there, but maybe just to name a few.
Yeah, if we tried covering them all, this presentation might go till tomorrow here. But in terms of general studies, yes, so students generally have their core curriculum, which they're required to take. Things like English 101, English 102. These are kind of like your introductory English courses here. But we also have a wide variety of courses that you can take between maths and sciences. Things from like college algebra, statistics, all the way to Calc 1 and Calc 2, business mathematics, and then also a lot of our science courses ranging from physics, astronomy courses, and then also science courses specifically itself too. So you'll find a very broad range that will help fulfill all of those requirements you have for your degree. And it's really just a matter of what you're interested in picking and plugging from there.
Perfect, thank you. All right, Ashley, can you talk a little bit about some of the jobs that our cybersecurity students can get after graduation?
Definitely. I think that definitely runs the gamut because cybersecurity is a career that is and a field that is just in such high demand right now. Oftentimes, our students do go on to work at a security operations center, being like a SOC analyst, starting off oftentimes in like a junior level role, and then moving their way up. We even recently had a graduate who helped stand up an entire security operations center for a very large organization. So that's a huge accomplishment. Oftentimes, we also have students go on to do penetration testing. That's kind of the dream role within cybersecurity. So definitely something that may take some working up to, but ultimately ends up being a phenomenal place for them to be. There's a lot of that red team side of things, just kind of providing more of that defense as well. So it really does vary and can be something that students move up in very, very quickly.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to keep it with you, so don't go anywhere. So students that, obviously our on-campus students do have the ability to graduate with their bachelor's degree in just 2 years and 8 months or 2 2/3 years. But students that have multiple interests and want to do a dual degree, how much longer does that take on average for most students?
That's a really good question. A dual degree through UAT is actually one of my favorite benefits because of the fact that we do allow students to take any other classes for other degree areas as their electives. So what that means is it cuts down on the amount of time that it would take to earn that second degree. What I would say on average is we're looking at an addition of at least 1 semester, sometimes 2. And more than anything else, that's just to really gain that higher education knowledge in a variety of areas. From an accreditation perspective, that really helps our students too when they get out in the industry. So on top of the credits required for that second degree, a minimum of 15 additional credits in that area of study would be required, which can be done in 1 semester. So assuming a student is doing incredible in their classes, like I know everyone here will, then I would say at least the 1 semester, could be 2.
Perfect. And still less than the national average, which is about 5 to 6 years for just 1 bachelor's degree. So huge advantage here at UAT, getting our students off to the right foot. Thank you. And we do have a special guest joining us that I'd like to introduce. We do have our Founders Hall manager here, Kenton Ellis. He'd like to say a few words about Founders Hall and so awesome to live on campus.
Hello, Katie. Yeah, I'm the general manager for Founders Hall. I pretty much run the building, all the student-led activities that we do there. Right now, living on campus is pretty fun. We have a pretty good community. The students are getting to know each other. Lots of events, like we do game and grub nights of Cards Against Humanity. We're planning on having like a water balloon fight out in the front and the quad. A lot of cool stuff now that the weather's cooled down. So definitely, if you haven't, feel free to check out Founders, give our staff a call. I do have a staff of resident assistants. They're all college students, so they definitely want to talk to you, share their experiences, and kind of just give their 2 cents in about what it's like to be at UAT and to live at Founders Hall.
Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So we had a lot of great questions today. A lot was covered. Let's go ahead and wrap this up today. I know there's still probably questions hanging out there, but we're all here to help you. Reach out to student services, reach out to your admissions team. Our professors are here to help as well. They'll chat with you, before you get started with classes, during classes. We just love to chat with our students. We're here to help you throughout your journey here at UAT. So I hope that you all enjoyed today's virtual open house. Let's talk about some next steps. If you haven't applied yet, apply today. It's open and it's free. If you are a sophomore or older in high school, continuing your education or want to start a new journey, our application is open, like I said, and it's free, uat.edu/apply. Also, if you plan on using the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid to help fund your education, as Mike said, fill that out as well. The 2021 and the 21-22, depending on when you'll be joining us, chat with your advisor about that for additional details. Again, our school code is 017188. If you missed that, we'll go ahead and put it in the chat as well. Mike went ahead and put that in there. Thank you, Mike. And he also included the link for the FAFSA as well. As we mentioned a few times here, if you're continuing your education, you have some transfer credits, be sure to send us in your transcripts. We'll evaluate them for you for free. Let you know it would transfer over. Also give you a good idea on how long it'll take you to complete the rest of that degree program. And as always, please be sure to connect with your advisor, whether that's your admissions advisor if you haven't applied yet, your enrollment advisor if you have applied. And if you're looking forward to enrolling, chat with them today. So that way you can get to chatting with Nathaniel about your classes and next steps of getting started here at UAT. All right. Upcoming start dates. We do have many upcoming start dates. We have February 16th. We have March 3rd for our graduate and resident students, May 11th for those graduate and resident students. And again, we have everybody starting online, graduate, resident students on May 10th. So a lot of options. Chat with your advisor today. A lot of things to do today, so I'll let you get to it. But first, let's get to that video that I promised you to take a little bit of look at our campus. Again, thanks so much for joining us today, and we hope to see y'all real soon.